third round. Stretch is in the black shorts, and it's Jim Neely again.
Seconds out, round 3.
Gary Stretch, professional, his first professional fight in April of 1985 when he stopped Steve Stempro in Bethnal Green in 6 rounds. Won the next 3 in stoppages. Then a points win before that, one and only loss, the only blemish on his record. Cut eye caused him to lose the contest against Julian Monville in December of 1985. 86 he won all 7 contests, and 87 became the Central Area Light Middleweight champion, stopping Sammy Sampson in St Helens in 2 rounds. Well, there's that jab going in, and Stretch, always a very economical boxer. Would throw only a fraction of the punches that many others would at this weight, or any other weight indeed. And he obviously has decided to stay away as far as possible from Contreras until he can pick his moment. Stretch won his British light middleweight title in September of 1988, and what a great scrap that was with the defending champion at the time, Gary Cooper, here in Reading. 12 rounds it went, Cooper down twice, and that was one of the fights of the year. Contreras holding on and climbing, very awkward style. Stretch leaning in with the head. Yes, Tony Walker asked him not to do that. This round by Stretch. Decided to back off, however, when he had his man on the ropes and perhaps reeling. Although we have seen that very few Argentinians will go down in the first flurry, if at all. Every time Stretch lands, you get the impression that Contreras rather begrudgingly has to acknowledge it. Yes, good round that by Stretch. And Contreras, the man who frustrated Chris Eubank for 12 rounds in Brighton a month ago, himself looking somewhat frustrated. And Bobby Neal, I think, don't know whether the Argentinian corner heard you, but I think the Stretch corner heard you, and this man really getting Gary Stretch at his best.
Yes, yes. He's no finding, he's got to find an answer of Gary's long straight right hand, and just now he just can't do it.
Seconds out, round 4.
So 3 down in this scheduled 10-rounder international middleweight contest. Gary Stretch at his heaviest ever, 11 stone 5, as indeed is Eduardo Contreras, the 31-year-old Argentinian in the white trunks, his opponent. Stretch settling into a much more familiar and relaxed and comfortable rhythm in the last round, popping that right hand into the face of his opponent. Still occasionally that disturbing tendency, Stretch, to drop his hands, but such are his reflexes that he can normally get out of trouble.
Right. Right.
Stretch still coming forward, pushing the Argentinian back, and that's a nice combination. That really is the best middle 1-2 we've seen so far from Stretch. And the rhythm just starting to pick up. And Contreras getting worried. And the Stretch should, by the end of this contest, score not just a convincing point win, but do it in some style. It will really confirm his ability as a middleweight. And Chris Eubank may be a man who will have to worry. Some beautiful boxing from Stretch. Just see the confidence oozing out of Gary Stretch at the moment. And Stretch may just have got the tactics right. He had a couple of fairly brutal and bustling and untidy, scrappy rounds at the start. He showed that he was, in that respect, may have just been the equal of Contreras, and now he's showing that he's infinitely superior in terms of boxing. Best run so far from Gary Stretch. I think probably the Stretch corner, and Gary in particular, will be well pleased with that last 3 minutes.
Oh, that's an excellent run, excellent run. He was in complete command from the very first minute to the last. His right jab was moving. He's now starting to bring in his left hand much better, much more controlled. That's what I was saying. Once he got this left jab going, once he found the reach, now he can start working on other punches.
Corners, 10 seconds. Seconds out, round 9.
Six minutes of boxing remaining, if it does go the full 10 rounds then. 11 stone 5, both Gary Stretch in the black and Eduardo Contreras from Argentina weighed in at. Stretch extraordinarily tall for a welterweight, which is where he started his career 5 years ago as a professional. He's still pretty tall, even as a middleweight. Contreras, I think, perhaps concerned that there was a low blow from Stretch, because he did look at his corner and muttered something under his breath. Stretch still concentrating on the head, and as Bobby Neal quite rightly observed, there's been very little in the way of body shots coming in from Stretch. All the way through his professional career to date, a stinging right hand has served Stretch well. He's had to hold on. Contreras now shaking the head. I think he's probably realizing that Gary Stretch is not going to go away. Never mind Stretch. Oh, come on, says Contreras. Half a minute remaining, and then 3 more minutes. Stretch, I have a feeling we'll be glad to hear the final bell. Can't say I blame him. Watch the head. Contreras. Yeah, come on. And Gary Stretch really has an international middleweight debut to remember, though I suspect he may just want to forget it. Little flurry in the middle of that round looked good for Stretch, and this really is Stretch at his best, Bob.
This is at his best. This one he really swung. Nice.
You don't really often see him use that left hand, and just a little glimpse there of the right going into the body, as you suggested.
This is the most amazing thing. We've gone through 10 rounds, and I can't remember him throwing a good body punch the whole 10 rounds. And he's such a good body puncher. But he seems to be so frustrated with this man, he's tried to take his head off all the time.
Corners, 10 seconds. Seconds out, 10th and last round.
27 frustrating minutes Gary Stretch has had. The reigning British light middleweight champion from St. Helens, the 24-year-old. Must be wondering if everybody at 11 stone 6 is going to be like Eduardo Contreras. Perhaps I should go back to 11 stone, but still I don't think he will. And Contreras, having paced himself, albeit awkwardly, all the way through, perhaps realises that, well, he might just open up a little bit this final round. Contreras hasn't ever looked like causing Stretch any particular problems coming forward, but it's his defence and his whole style and attitude that's really frustrated Gary Stretch. Says Stretch, you come forward to me, Senor Contreras. You're lying on Stretch from referee Tony Walker. One more annoying, frustrating minute for Gary Stretch. Gary Stretch is cut underneath the right eye, indeed on the right cheekbone, which has come from a clash of heads, I've no doubt. It's right on the very prominent cheekbone of his, and it's perhaps just as well that it's come within the last half minute of this contest and not the first half minute. But it did come, I have a feeling, from a clash of heads. So this contest ends as it began, with a lot of very untidy boxing. Well, the hand of Gary Stretch raised by the referee, Tony Walker, no question of that. The Stretch corner are probably annoyed by the attitude of Contreras. They do shake hands, but I think Stretch will have gained very little from that, apart from a cut and a little bit of experience in this, his first contest as a middleweight. So.
Our gentlemen, please. The referee scores the contest. Contreras, 96 points. Stretch, 100. Stretch is the winner, ladies and gentlemen.
So Gary Stretch didn't lose a round, and more importantly, he's gained 10 rounds of experience as a middleweight, and I think that really is where his future is going to lie, having relinquished his international light middleweight title, though he still is the reigning British light middleweight champion. Gary, a first win at middleweight, I think the word frustrating would be a bit of an understatement. I mean, it must have been pretty awful for you.
Yeah, I was just trying to tag him cleanly throughout the contest and wasn't able to do so. Very experienced man, but I felt I could have done a better job, but he was talking after the fight. Just couldn't tag him cleanly.
You obviously knew what sort of a fight he was going to come to you with, I presume, having watched him fight against Chris Eubank. I mean, I don't suppose that sort of knowledge did you any good, did it?
Not really. I looked at the fight. I'm not too sure on how good Eubank is. He appears to, people appear to think he's a good fighter. I've never really seen Eubank, so I couldn't really compare. But he looked awkward. I thought Eubank should have got to him, but someone watching me would probably think that I should have got to him. A good learning fight, but very, very frustrating.
Your first one, as we said, at middleweight, you're still holding on to your British light middleweight title. I mean, is it a question of making up your mind where the future lies, at which particular weight?
It depends. Me trainer Jimmy Tibbs, we've... Come on, Jim.
Come on, Jim, and you come.
I think you should ask Jim. I mean, I find I can do both weights. Obviously, middleweight's a little bit more comfortable, but we're not sure exactly what we're doing. But I found the opponent no bigger at middleweight, no stronger, just the same kind of opponent.
And at 11 stone 5, you felt particularly strong. Jimmy, were you pleased with that performance?
I was very pleased with the performance. Very, as he said, it was very frustrating. I can understand what Chris Eubanks went through now. He trained hard for this fight. We knew what we was walking into, but as he said, he couldn't tag him cleanly. If he'd have tagged him cleanly, it may have been a different story, but it's no good crying when the horse is bolted. It was a very frustrating time for Gary, but what I admired about Gary was his patience, and he does as he was told in the corner. He tried to do everything I told him to do. It was very frustrating for him to do that against an opponent like that. The man was clowning about. I think he should have had a talking to from someone. One of the
I think you were encouraging the referee to do that, weren't you?
He should have had a talk to. You think people pay to watch boxing, not dancing and showboating, you know, and that was very frustrating. But there you go. He survived it. That's what made him survive 10 rounds.
But finally, a pretty good learning experience as far as you're concerned for him.
Yeah, very pleased with him. Yeah.
Well done, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.